vulgar fractions. Okay, so you should remember, hopefully, that a vulgar fraction is a fraction that looks like this. Okay, so there are many ways of representing fractions, but a vulgar fraction is where you have one number over a second number. Okay, now just some keywords to remember. The top number up here is called the numerator. Alright, so that's an important keyword to remember. We're going to be using that word again. This is the numerator at the top. And the number on the bottom is called the denominator. Okay, and just a few more keywords. This is, in fact, a proper fraction. Okay, this is a proper fraction. And the reason why it's a proper fraction is because, I'll just get the red pen here, is because this number, the numerator, is smaller than the denominator. Okay, in some places we might have a fraction that looks like this, so 5/3, and this would be called an improper fraction. And the reason why this is called an improper fraction is because, for exactly the opposite reason that this is called a proper fraction, is because this number, the numerator, is bigger than the denominator. So it's a top-heavy fraction, and it's called an improper fraction. So what we're going to talk about today specifically is how to add together fractions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little example of a question that you might get. So we say 1/3 plus 1/2. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to add together these two vulgar fractions. Now, what you've got to remember when you add together vulgar fractions is they must, before you can add them together, they must have a common denominator. So what am I saying there? I'm saying, well, this number, this is the denominator, and this number must be the same. Alright, so what we've got to do is we've got to try and find a number that is common to both this and this. Alright, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to look for multiples. Okay, so if we think about the first multiple of 3, well, the first multiple of 3 is, of course, 3. Is 3 a multiple of 2? No, it isn't. Okay, so we can't use that. So what's the second multiple of 3? Well, it's 6. Okay, now let's have a look at 2. Is 6 a multiple of 2? Yes, it is. All right, so we can use that as our common denominator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that as our common denominator underneath. Okay, so I've changed the denominator to 6. Now, because I've changed the denominator, I'm also going to have to do something to the numerator. Okay, because obviously 1/6 is not the same as 1/3. All right, so what I need to do to the numerator is the same thing that I did to the denominator. So I got 3 here. Okay, this is my denominator, and I want to make it into 6. So what have I done to 3 to make it into 6? Well, I have, if I put a line between there and there, of course I've multiplied it by 2. Okay, so if I've multiplied the bottom by 2, then what I've got to do, I'm sure you've already worked it out, is I've got to multiply the top, the numerator, also by 2. So I'm going to write in there 2/6. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is exactly the same thing, but for the other fraction. So in this case, my denominator over here is 2, and I've changed it to 6. So what have I done to the denominator to change it from 2 to 6? Well, this time what I've done is I've multiplied it by 3. Okay, well, if I've multiplied the bottom by 3, I've then got to multiply the top by 3. So I've got to multiply the numerator by 3. So I'm going to put a line in here. I'm going to put times by 3. And so if I do 3 times 1, I'm going to end up with 3/6 there. Okay, so what I've now got is I've now got a common denominator. Okay, now as I've already said, I can't do my addition until I've got a common denominator. So now I have a common denominator, I can now do my sum. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put equals. And now all I do is the denominator is going to stay the same. So the denominator doesn't change, so I'm going to leave that as over 6. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to add these two numbers. Okay, I'm going to add the two numerators. I'm going to add the two numerators together. Okay, so what will I get? If I add 2 plus 3, I'll get 5/6. Okay, so that was a really short video just showing you how to add together vulgar fractions. Okay, hopefully you'll find it useful. Speak to you soon.